There was a woman with 3 little children who were seated in a restaurant eating a meal. They were in a booth together. The children, being very young, were energetic, to say the least. They were talking out loud and laughing and hiding under the table from each other. At one point, one of the children spilled his drink, and so the waitress had to come out and clean it up. And nearby that table was an elderly couple who were quietly eating their meal, but they were eyeballing the young family. And when they had finished eating, the older couple walked over to the young family and said to the woman, "Honey, you should really try and keep your children in line. They're very distracting to those of us who came for a quiet meal." And the young mother looked at the elderly couple and smiled, and she said, "Well, we've all had a pretty bad day. We just came from the hospital where my husband is dying of cancer. And I thought it would be a good idea to take the kids out for dinner." The elderly couple just were speechless. And all they said was, "We're so sorry." And they left. We're very often quick to judge people. We take notice of someone's looks or their behavior, and we come to a conclusion about them. And that conclusion is oftentimes way off base. We do not know what's going on in someone's personal life, what struggles, what tragedies, what problems they're experiencing. And as a result of not knowing, we can usually judge people unfairly. Today's first reading, Hannah was judged unfairly. When Eli the priest saw her sitting there crying and moving her mouth without hearing any words, he thought she was drunk. And he chastised her and basically said, "Get sober, stop drinking." But then she told him her story. She was without children, and she was begging the Lord to give her a son. She promised that she would even dedicate this son to God's service. So when Eli finally realized her situation, he had a change of heart, and he encouraged her to go in peace, and he prayed that God would hear her plea. And in the end, Hannah's prayer was answered. She became pregnant and had a son who would become one of the great prophets of Israel, Samuel. In the gospel, Jesus is teaching when he's rudely interrupted by a man who is trying to chastise Jesus for being who he is. Jesus could have judged the man, but he understands what's going on in the man's life. He sees within the man's spirit, and he sees that the man is possessed. So Jesus drives the spirit out of him. And because Jesus could see into this man's heart and soul, he withheld his judgment and showed him compassion and mercy. We would do well to imitate the example of Jesus. You know, when we're tempted to pass judgment on someone else, we might pause to consider what really might be going on in a person's heart and mind. Then we can choose to withhold judgment and simply practice a little compassion and mercy, perhaps even praying for the person who we were tempted to judge. By doing this, we will be blessed by God, because God always prefers mercy over judgment.